China is formally denying involvement in the hacking of the U.S. Treasury Department, the U.S. agency accusing Chinese hackers of remotely accessing workstations and unclassified documents, gaining access through a third-party software provider. Meanwhile, that incident comes as U.S. officials continue to grapple with a separate fallout of a massive Chinese cyber espionage campaign known as Salt Typhoon. That campaign gave officials in Beijing access to private texts and phone conversations of an unknown number of Americans. The U.S. is investigating the most recent event as a major cybersecurity incident. And it's not the only one or two that we've seen this year as cyber attacks in various forms continue. In fact, 2024 is projected to finish as the worst year on record for ransomware attacks.
And concerns are growing about 2025. For more, let's bring in James Turgel, the VP of Cyber Risk and Strategy at Optiv. Let's talk more about the threats, the trends, and how everyone can protect themselves. Appreciate the time, James. We'll talk about that Treasury attack in a little more detail in just a moment. But first, we hear that 2024 is slated to be the worst year on record for ransomware attacks. And obviously, this is basically when a hacker sort of holds a company or a government entity hostage to get them to pay to access their own system. Why was this the worst year on record for that particular type of attack?
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. So artificial intelligence, right? Machine learning, it allows, especially AI-generated ransomware, to become faster, to become more aggressive. It actually allows a number, if a pre-AI ransomware group or threat actor would be able to use that type of technology against maybe 5 or 10 different companies, AI allows them to use it at scale. So 2024 will absolutely be more likely to be the worst that we've seen in history, right? Increase in the number of attacks, which means more businesses are at risk. And it's also being able, threat actors are using AI to actually understand better what the technical stack is or the technology stack within a company is, and then using AI to actually figure out what those vulnerabilities are, which allows them to launch more aggressive and faster attacks against our companies and our government.
So if that's ransomware and AI is giving the assist to kind of ramping that up, when you're talking about all the ways that people and businesses and governments and companies can be attacked, is that also helping in things like we're seeing with the Treasury Department? That's a hack to get information and get into a system and kind of come out with it. Where does that stand in terms of when you're looking at threat level and frequency and how new technology is aiding that?
Yeah, great question. So the whole concept of AI, there's now a market out there on the dark web, on the black market of AI agents, right? And that's actually just it's software, it's tools out there that are being used. There's like Fraud GPT, and there's other like GPTs that have been designed by threat actors. It's also enhancing the ability, if a threat actor, or even a low-level organized crime group, was utilizing phishing or deep fake technology. Imagine that AI can allow that phishing technology to be 100,000 times better, right? You're going to hit 1,000 more companies. The actual material and of the phishing emails, they look real, right? The pictures look real. The deep fake videos embedded within them look real. So it really enhances their ability to launch attacks.
All right, so we talk about these recent cyber attacks here on the Treasury Department and also on the telecommunications companies in this country. What can every other government entity and major corporation learn from these attacks to sort of shore up the security and try to keep these cyber criminals out moving forward?
So certainly with the most recent ones, right, the Salt Typhoon, the Volt Typhoon, China is the largest existential cyber threat that we have, clearly. The other issue that I think really needs to be talked about is, right, the Treasury attack was a third-party attack. So threat actors in China are actually utilizing the third parties, whether it's a different firm that sells them, a different vendor, any type of vendor at all that has access to that particular victim's technical stack or technology stack, right? They're utilizing these third parties to actually gain access to the victims. And so companies need to understand, need to identify who are all your third-party vendors out there. Do they hold themselves to the same cybersecurity acuity and training? And do they do the basics? Do they do the blocking and tackling that has to be done? Do they have resilience backups? Do they have systems that are containerized for their backups? Do they actually have backup systems and the ability to action those? Those are critical elements that need to be taken for all companies.
And are we keeping up with it on the security side, on the stopping it side? Certainly, you talked about the ramp up on the criminal side. Is it matching? I mean, do we have enough kind of weapons in the arsenal to make sure that the blocking and the stopping happens as we head into 2025?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so just on the defensive side, right? So artificial intelligence, machine learning is being used on the defensive side for predictive analysis, behavioral analysis. It's actually being utilized by companies from a threat actor viewpoint of view. So what I mean by that is they're actually coming in with different tools out there to scan their systems, using AI to scan the vulnerabilities within a particular company's system. So they're closing those gaps much faster, much quicker, and at a higher rate.
All right. Well, we appreciate your perspective here. James Turgel, VP of Cyber Risk and Strategy at Optiv. Thank you for the outlook here. Obviously, a lot of concerns with AI and the impact it's going to have on cybersecurity questions moving forward into the new year. Appreciate the time. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.